Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, however you want to live your life. It's Coach Baird, coming to you live from the Baird Cave. You're listening to the Baird Necessities. This is episode 20. Next episode, we'll be able to drink. Boo. All right, thanks for Raina Frost for joining me in the Baird Cave last year. I wish her well in Europe. I can't wait to see how she does over there. Thank you for all who've listened in my past episodes. If you haven't yet, you can catch up on your own time. You can find me on Spotify, iTunes, and Podbean. I have my own YouTube channel as well. You can check that out, the Baird Necessities on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at the Baird NEC or send me an email at thebairdnec@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Special thanks to my fellow podcaster. Follow him on Twitter at itantwright, for helping me spread the word on the Baird Necessities. Check out his podcast on iTunes. I always struggle to say that name. It just doesn't, it's a great name. It's just, I struggle to talk sometimes, so I apologize. Again, follow him on Twitter. This week's guest I got from another former Baird Necessities alum. He actually is Dylan Stanton's uncle. Dylan was the second guest I've had in the Baird Caves. Afterwards, talking with Dylan's dad, Con, came up and talked to me about the podcast, and Chris's name came up. I was excited because I was actually a fan of this guy. I watched him play basketball in his senior season of high school. He went on to Marquette University and was drafted in the second round of the 1997 NBA draft by the Atlanta Hawks. He's currently retired and living in the area. He's been named one of the top centers of Michigan in the past 25 years, so that's exciting. Joining me in the Baird Cave this week, Chris Crawford. All right, welcome, Chris. First of all, I'm a huge fan. I actually watched you play in high school. I'm that old, so.
Oh, it's been a while.
Yes, it has.
It seems like forever ago, but yep.
To me, it seems like it just happened yesterday. I don't know if I haven't hit 40 yet, so maybe once you get 40, it seems like a different time.
Yeah, it seems like every day. It seems like time's flying by so far. So it's been 93, so it's been 26 years ago. So It seems like sometimes it doesn't seem that long ago, and other times it seems like it's been forever.
My brother graduated in 93. I graduated from Delton Kellogg. Obviously,
okay.
Comstock and Delton Kellogg used to play each other a lot more than they do now. But back in the day, we would always play you guys in basketball. And your senior year, you guys came to our gym, and you were the first person to ever see dunk a basketball in high school.
Yeah, I do remember that game. Actually, the reason I remember that one is because the next day in the paper, it said Crawford 27 and Delton 26 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So that's the reason. One of the reasons why I remember that game, because I remember especially being in Delton too.
Yeah.
So I definitely do remember. Definitely do remember playing against Delton.
Yeah, going way back for that one. You and Art Clark were the only two that I've ever seen dunk in high school prior to all these new kids.
I know. Yeah, it's been. I remember Art Clark too. So. Yep. Back in high school, that was a big thing. If you could, back then, if you could dunk, and the crowd went crazy. And just for even I remember my sophomore year, I remember my first dunk in a game. Actually, it was just barely got the ball over the rim, and my fingers barely touched the rim, but the crowd just went crazy because obviously a dunk in high school was a big thing back then.
Right. I was just happy to touch backboard.
Yeah, I remember those days too. I remember. When the first time you could do a layup, touch the backboard after you do a layup was a huge thing back then.
Yeah, but you were in fourth grade when that happened.
Not quite fourth grade, maybe like seventh or so. Sixth or seventh, I remember.
Like I said, I watched you play in high school.
Yep, so I remember that. I think it was probably seventh grade. I think the first time I remember when I was able, to touch the backboard. And I think eighth grade was the first time I was actually able to touch the rim.
I never reached that feat unless I was able to get
never, no.
Nope. Unless it was a 7-foot rim.
Yep. Yep, and the lower rims like the elementary schools have.
Yep. I could jam out on those all the time. That's NBA Jam style for me right there.
Uh-huh. So did you play high school?
Yeah, I played in high school.
Then,
Yep, I played up until my sophomore year. Then I realized that you don't really have a very good chance of being a 6-foot center that's slow and fat. So I switched to wrestling to help out football.
Okay. So what year did you graduate then?
I ended up graduating in 1998.
Okay, 98. Yep. All right.
I'm trying to keep this in kind of a timeline, but you you started in 97.
Yeah, so I went to Marquette. I graduated high school in 93, and then I went to Marquette. And my last year was 96, 97. Okay. And then I got drafted in the 97 draft.
Okay, gotcha.
For the NBA.
Yep.
So, 98 would have been my ended my first year of playing for the Hawks.
Nice. Okay, gotcha. All right, I want to first of all, thanks to your whole entire family pretty much for giving me the chance to talk to you. I had Dylan as my second ever guest on the show, and afterwards,
Okay.
Khan came up and we had a little chat, and he mentioned that you guys were related, and I'm like, well, that makes sense why Dylan is so athletic. Then I realized that it was from your wife is the relation and not you, so you're kind of just through blood.
My wife was an athlete too in high school.
I looked at actually some of her stuff because on the Comstock's Hall of Fame webpage, it's got all the things that you did, and then I believe it's one above you is her, and she's obviously class of 1991, and it looks like she's pretty much a better athlete than you are.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. It's always the her big thing was who scored more points in high school,
right?
And she got me on that one. So, yeah, she was on varsity all 4 years and for softball, basketball, and volleyball. So, and then she ran track a couple years. So she had like 14 letter, 15 letter, something crazy like that. Wow. So, yeah, I hear it all the time. Who scored more points in high school? So, and she got me by a few.
Right. Now, okay, you guys both went to Comstock. Were you guys high school sweethearts back then?
Nope. She was, so obviously she graduated in 91, I was 93, so we knew of each other. And then once we never dated in high school or anything, but once my basketball coach in high school, his wife was a teacher at Comstock Middle School, and I actually had her as a student. But then once Stacy graduated from Indiana State, she came back here and got her first teaching job at Comstock Middle School. And so my whole senior year, when they would come to the games, John Holmes and his wife Carol would come. They'd always, tell me trying to set me up with Stacy and then this and then. So right after my senior year, I graduated, or not graduated, but got done playing. I came home for a couple weeks and I went to the school to talk to some of the 7th and 8th graders, and they kind of set us up that day, and we went out, I think the next day, and then we've been together ever since. So that was 97 too. So we've been together for about 22 years, something like that.
So when did you guys end up getting married?
2000.
Okay.
So July 22nd will be our 19th year being married.
All right.
So
coming up, at least you know when it is.
Yeah, exactly. And if I don't remember the actual day, I do remember the years, because whatever year it is, 2019 will be our 19th year, so we'll never get the years wrong. I might miss up the date, but the years I know for sure I'll get right.
Right. Now, do you guys have any kids?
We have 2 daughters. That our oldest Sophie should be going into 8th grade at Gull Lake, and then our youngest Alexis will be going into 3rd grade.
Now, are they super athletes now because of you guys?
They play. Sophie's kind of grown up. She played softball, volleyball, basketball, and soccer. But 2 years ago, she played travel soccer and softball at the same time, and then it got too much, so she decided to give up softball. So right now, her 2 main sports are soccer and volleyball, but she still plays basketball. Like last year, she played for the school, 7th grade, so I'm sure she'll do that again. But I think her 2 sports are probably right now are soccer and volleyball.
Nice. No pressure from anybody to do anything?
No, not a little bit. I try to back off her and, let her do her thing and trying to make her name for herself if she wants to do that, or just kind of be supportive on whatever she wants to do.
Right. That's cool. Growing up, did you play any other sports other than basketball?
I actually played baseball and hockey.
Okay.
I started hockey with my first sport. I started that when I was 5. So I played all the way up till 7th grade, and then I kind of was starting to grow, and I told my mom and dad that I thought about thinking about playing basketball instead of hockey, and they weren't too happy with that decision at first, because I had never played basketball growing up, and none of my family did. And actually, it's kind of crazy. The night before our first tryout, I had no clue how to do a layup. My brother was outside, and he didn't really know much about sports either, or basketball. And he was actually trying to teach me how to do a layup the day before my first tryout for basketball in 7th grade.
Obviously, it went well.
Yeah, it turned out it didn't start off too well. My first couple years, I was I was looking back, I thought I was good, but I actually watched a video. My mom and dad were sorting out their basement, and they gave me a video of when I was in 8th grade, and we watched it, and oh wow, it wasn't too pretty. So
You got to start somewhere.
the guy I know, yep. So it took a few years. So I went from never playing before to in like 3 years never playing to being on varsity as a sophomore. So it was kind of picked up pretty quick after the first couple of years.
Okay. So you're 6'9" now. When did you grow into your body? Like, when did you start growing?
I was always tall, but I wasn't like, one of these kids that are foot taller than everybody. I just kind of never stopped growing. I just kept growing, and by the time, I think going into my senior year, I got measured and weighed at one of the basketball camps I went to. I was 6'8", 204 between my junior and senior year. So I think I was like 6'4" or 5 my sophomore year, and then so I grew maybe an inch or so every year all the way up until my senior year.
Wow. Nice. Now, going back to your Comstock Hall of Fame webpage, just to kind of give a clue what you've done, 6 varsity letters in soccer, basketball, and baseball, 3 letters in basketball. You were 1993 Class B first team All-State, 1992 Class B second team All-State. You finished 4th in the voting for Mr. Basketball Award, which is pretty neat itself. I couldn't see what all like the vote totals were. I know some back in the day you'd be able, or right now you could go and look and see like who won and how many first place votes or second place votes, etc. But I was not able to find that, or I would talk more about that. Just to be even honored for that. BCAM All-Star Team, you were selected for the Michigan-Ohio All-Star Game. What was that like?
It was right after my senior year graduated. I think it was like, might have been 8 kids. There was a couple kids from Benton Harbor, Corey Childs, I remember, and then a few from Detroit, and I think one from Jackson, maybe one from Grand Rapids. Yeah, we met up in Grand Rapids at a hotel during the day, and then kind of introduced everybody, and then we went and practiced that night. I can't even remember where it was at in Grand Rapids, some field house, I think. So we played the game. Said Ohio came up, we played then, and then after the game we drove down to somewhere in Ohio. I can't even remember the city, and then played another game down there. Yeah, so it was like I was like kind of like a home and home against instead of like Michigan, Ohio.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to remember anything about Ohio either, so that's fine. Yeah. So you were nominated to the 1993 McDonald's All-American team. How close were you to making that?
Not very close, I don't think.
Okay, sorry.
But I think they like the highest, like in the recruiting whatever. I think the highest I was like 91st in the country as my senior year. So I'm not sure how many. I think they nominate quite a few people, and then like I said, the top like 24 make it. So I still had a ways to go, but.
To be nominated, though, right there.
It was kind of cool.
Yeah. So, okay, if I don't think any of these have changed yet. I'm not sure. You still lead Comstock in points in a career record of 1,510 points in his single season with 646. Like I said, I don't know if they've updated this or not. Still pretty impressive.
Yeah, I said the one that I wish I could, looking back, as I had my senior year, we played Sturgis first round of the districts at Comstock, and they were ranked I think like 3rd or 4th in the state, and we were maybe 5th or 6th, and then I ended up with I had 47 that night.
Oh wow!
So I missed the all-time. Some guy, it was actually one of our family friends' brother had 48, so I missed the single games record by one point. So looking back, I wish I would have known that and maybe try to get one more basket of free throws so I could have that record, but can't really. Looking back, it was, nothing you can really change about it. It was a very good, especially opening districts, and, they were ranked higher than us, and so it was a big deal. It was just, but afterwards, I heard I had 47 and missed it by 1 point. I was kind of wishing, one thing you go back and change, but nothing really. Don't look back now, and not too bad out of it.
Right. Now, like you said, looking back, did you know at the time that you had that many points, or you were just shooting and everything was going in?
Everything was going. I was kind of said someone ran up to me when I got off the bench, so we ended up beating them by 15 or 20. So I got pulled out like a minute to go,
Oh.
And I remember our trainer who told me, he goes, "You had 47." I couldn't believe it. Because back when you're growing up, every time you score, you kind of keep track of it.
Yeah.
I kind of had an idea when I was going up pretty high, but I think I had like 32 or 33 in the second half, so it kind of lost track for a minute. But I was still shocked when I probably thought I had around 40, but when they told me it was 47, I was kind of shocked.
Yeah, I usually have a hard time counting past 2, so I was good, so we're good.
Yeah, it was said when you're growing up and you only score a couple of baskets, it's easy to remember exactly how many you had. But once you start, they start scoring that many that quick, you kind of lose track.
Right. So be honest, was soccer your best sport then?
No, not at all. All my friends played. It was kind of weird how I got, even the one year I played. So I said growing up I played hockey, so I never played football or soccer. And then once I gave up hockey for basketball, I always had more free time because I played travel hockey. So I think my last year of travel hockey, our home rink was in Detroit. So every Friday, get out of school, my mom or dad would drive me to Detroit for the weekend. We'd stay there till Sunday. So I never had any free time to do any other sports outside of that. So once I finally was done playing hockey, all my friends were playing indoor because they all grew up playing soccer. So they needed a goalie, and I was a big tall one, so they're like, "Oh, come play goalie for us." So I played that for a couple of years in middle school. And then our sophomore year, the main goalie they had was going to retire, and he was a year younger or older than us. Chopped off his a finger in like a freak not a chainsaw, but like a bandsaw or something.
Mm-hmm.
Sliced his finger off like a week before the season was supposed to start. So of course they were scrambling around for a goalie, and I wasn't doing anything in the fall. So all my friends were talking me into playing the 1 year, and it wasn't the most enjoyable time, but it was actually the games where once we played, like a good team, we actually played Gull Lake when they were in, like Caleb Porter was my age.
Okay.
And with Rob Lister, and so they were obviously really good in soccer. So those games were fun because you got a lot of shots. But there's a couple of games where you played where you got faced one shot for the whole game, and you're just sitting out there in the cold and rain. So it lasted 1 year, and I'd had enough at that point.
Right. Any fond memories of high school?
Oh yeah, I had a great. So we still live in the area. My mom and dad still in the same house, and still have friends that teach there, and so I had a great time at Comstock.
Nice. Okay. Do you remember your last high school basketball game?
Unfortunately, yeah, I still have flashbacks about it. We going into the game, we were 23-1, and we played Coldwater in the regional finals. I remember it was at Mattawan. I think they were 13-11 at that point. So it was obviously we're going to win this and move on and hopefully make it to the finals of the state, but didn't quite work out that way. They hit like an NBA three-pointer at the end of the first quarter. The second quarter, they hit almost like a half-court shot, and end of the third quarter, they hit another long NBA three. So they had last three quarters, all three quarters, they hit a last-second three to beat us. We actually ended up getting the ball back. We had like a minute to go, and we were playing for the last shot, and one of our guards missed a layup with like 12 seconds to go, and they got the rebound, and someone fouled, and then they made one or two free throws, and then we came down. I missed a shot, and then our other point guard missed a shot at the buzzer, so ended up losing to Coldwater. So I was definitely not expecting that going into the game. So it was one of those where, kind of almost looking ahead where, we're going to play in the quarterfinals or semifinals and end up getting upset.
Yeah, I believe it was Hoosiers when he said you don't usually talk about your next rung on the ladder until you grab it. But yeah, that's one of those things.
Yeah, that was. We were definitely looking past them, I think, because obviously we're 23-1 and ranked high, and they were. So I think they were like 13-11 or 12-12 maybe. I'm not sure, but it was definitely one of those where definitely we thought we were looking ahead and it ended up costing us.
Okay. That stinks, yeah. Hate to see you go out on a note like that. I see you ended up going to Marquette. Was there any other schools interested?
Yeah. I think my mom and dad had a list. We wrote down all the schools. I think I had like 85 schools contact me.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of just narrowed it down. I kind of wanted to stay somewhat close to home.
Mm-hmm.
So like Gonzaga and schools like that but I didn't want to go to Washington and be a 5-hour plane ride away from my parents. So I figured I was going to go somewhere around. I don't know. Part of me wanted me to leave, and some part of me not. But I narrowed it down to my final 5 were Miami, Ohio, Penn State, Virginia Tech, UNC Charlotte, and Marquette.
Okay.
So I actually, had a few schools around and a few schools somewhat far away. But
so what was the selling point on Marquette?
they kind of it's kind of weird. The things I liked best about it was our dorm rooms. Like we went, all the other schools I visited, they show us a dorm room, and it was like, we sleep on a bunk bed. But at Marquette, they turned like an old hospital into it was technically called junior and senior living.
Okay.
And every basketball, 2 of you shared a room, and we all had the corner rooms, which were really big. So
Okay.
actually, like my bedroom at Marquette was bigger than my bedroom at home. So we each had our own bedroom, a living room that was pretty big, and so that was one of the main selling points I liked, at least. And then their coach had just come from Arizona, so he took over like 3 years before that, and he was kind of like an up-and-coming coach. And then I said the team was, I think year before I got there, they made the tournament for the first time in forever. And then the arena, they played in the same arena as the Bucks played in, Milwaukee Bucks. So it was, you playing in a 20,000-seat arena. So that was kind of just a combination of everything. And on my visit, I took a couple visits, an unofficial visit like in August before my senior year, and then I went for my official visit and just got along good with the guys on the team, and just kind of thought it was this going to be a good fit.
All right.
But the weird thing is that when they first started sending me letters my junior year, I saw Marquette, and I'm like, kind of just tossed them away to the side. My dad's like, "What are you doing that?" I said, "Marquette, I never heard of it, and I don't want to go way up to the UP. For some reason, I thought it was Marquette, Michigan."
I think I was in the same boat.
Oh, they were,
I was in the same boat when I first thought Marquette. I'm looking, and I'm like, that doesn't sound like a very big place to have a college. And then I realized it was in Milwaukee.
Actually, yep, downtown Milwaukee.
Okay.
So it was just said right downtown, and then once I started looking at the letters, I'm like, wow. 15 years ago, before that, they said they won the national championship in '77. So it's kind of, once I started learning more about the school and where it was located, I was kind of got me more interested. And so it ended up being, I thought, it was the best fit for me. So, and they were in a pretty good conference. When I got there, we were in the Great Midwest Conference. And they had like us, Marquette, Cincinnati, DePaul, St. Louis, Memphis, Tulane. So we had some pretty good basketball schools.
Right. Now, had they changed their name yet, or were they? I know they were Warriors, and they changed it to the Golden Eagles.
Yep. My freshman year was the last year they're the Warriors. So they actually came up, made a shirt for the basketball team that said like the last Warriors or whatever, and listed all the roster for the team, and then so they changed it. I think we started hearing about it towards the beginning of my freshman year, and by the time my freshman year was over, they had came out with the Golden Eagles. It was going to be the new name.
Right. Okay, so I knew about the basketball success, but I had no idea about your baseball career. What position did you play in baseball?
I played pitcher.
Okay.
Oh, in high school I played first base and pitcher.
Okay.
And then it's kind of a weird, long kind of story that how I actually get able to get to that point. So I played obviously baseball growing up, and then I played my junior year, and we were pretty good. I think I was all conference, and we had a pretty good team coming back for my senior year. That right after the basketball season, Bobby Knight's son, Tim Knight, was friends with, I don't know if you've heard of the name Lawrence Frank. He's when actually my freshman year under Kevin O'Neill, he was like our grad assistant and actually lived a floor above us. But he had came from being a student manager at Indiana under Bobby Knight. So he was friends with Bobby Knight's oldest kid, Tim, and he had tried to get into kind of like doing like a McDonald's All-American game, but he was going to do a different one. I can't remember what it's called, but he was going to do 2 All-Star games, one in Fort Wayne and one in Bloomington. And so he, through Tim Knighton and Lawrence Frank, kind of got me and my roommate Anthony Pieper and a couple of other guys that were going to Marquette invited to play in this All-Star game.
Okay.
So I got the invitation and talked to my coach, Kevin O'Neill at Marquette, and he's like, yeah, it'll be a good thing to do just to play against better competition and all that. So somehow my athletic director at Comstock found out about it through somehow, and he was like, I need to call the Michigan State High School Athletic Association to see if you're able to play in it. And I'm like, never thought of nothing of it. And so a couple days later, he comes back and he goes, yeah, if you play in this All-Star game, you cannot play any more high school sports in Michigan.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, what? We kind of like never heard of this rule or whatever, but so I talked to said with Kevin O'Neill, and he wanted me playing it, and I never thought I was going to go anywhere for baseball. I'm going to go to school to play at Marquette. So I ended up playing in the All-Star game. So I played the first 3 games my senior year in high school for baseball, and then I played in the All-Star game, so I couldn't play the rest of the year.
Oh, wow.
And they actually a team, instead of most of my friends growing up that I played with, they actually made it to the quarterfinals of the state tournament. And so I was and I was going to be their best pitcher so I think looking back, we'd have had a chance to actually, maybe win state in baseball, but I never thought anything of it because I was going to play basketball at Marquette, so I never really thought I had a future in baseball or anything like that.
Okay.
Oh, and then towards the end of that summer year, right before I was going to go to Marquette, my mom and dad, my brother saw something in the Gazette about an open tryout for the Tigers at Eastern Michigan. And so my mom's dad was signed a professional contract to play for the St. Louis Browns for baseball. Growing up, he was a pitcher, but he got shot in World War II and had to have one of his legs amputated, so that kind of ruined his baseball career. But growing up, it was all, we'd watch the Tigers games with my mom and dad, my grandma, grandpa, and all that. So they were my mom and dad were kind of still pushing me. They wanted me to play baseball. So I went to this tryout at Eastern Michigan, and I got there, and they split us up into pitchers and infielders, and so they're like, all right, each person got 5 minutes to throw off the mound. So I threw for them, and afterwards, I'm standing there, and they call me over, and they're like, what are you doing Monday? And I was like, nothing, just going home and get ready to go back to school. They're like, could you come to Tiger Stadium and throw for us again?
Oh, wow.
So, okay. And my grandpa had passed away at that point, so my grandma went with us, and I worked out through for the general manager and all that, scouts for the Tigers. And then after I threw for them for 10, 15 minutes, they called me over and they wanted to sign me to a contract.
Oh, wow.
Right then. So, but I was like, it was like maybe a week before I was supposed to leave for Marquette, and I was like, I'm going to go to school because that was what I wanted to do, is play basketball. I said, I'm just going to school, so I'm not going to sign yet. So they were like, all right, well, we'll be in touch. And so I went off to school and didn't hear nothing for months after months. And then somehow in the winter, a Houston Astros scout from Milwaukee had heard that I pitched, or somehow he found out that I played baseball. So he wrote me a letter saying he would like to watch me work out and pitch. So my last day of my freshman year, my dad picked me up in Milwaukee, and we drove to Davenport, Iowa for on a Friday, and woke up next morning. It was raining out, thunderstorms and everything. So we drove to the stadium. It was a Class A. That is actually it was the same league as like the Whitecaps are in.
Yeah.
So it was like a Class A or whatever. So we get there, and sure enough, stopped training for an hour. So I was able to throw for them, and I threw 10 minutes for them, and they said, thanks for coming, and that was pretty much it. So then I come back just home after my freshman year, and I hear from the Tigers again, so they actually come to to Comstock. I threw out the mound for them, and then I worked out again, I think, for Seattle and maybe one other team. Somehow they found out I could throw hard or whatever, and then like 2 days before the draft, I get a call from the Tigers, and they want me to come to Tiger Stadium again to throw again for the general manager and scouts, whatever. So we pull up, and I'm the only one in the whole field except for like 10 guys around the batting cage, and I'm throwing for them. And so that ends, and they said, all right, we'll be in touch. And then and through this whole point, I had never heard from the Astros again. So the day of the draft comes, I'm thinking if I was going to get drafted, it'd be by the Tigers, because I'd worked out for them 2 or 3 times. And then all of a sudden, my phone rang, and it was the Astros saying, we just drafted you in the 16th round.
Nice.
So it was kind of a shock.
What's going through your mind when that happens?
Kind of, well, said I had no clue of how much they made or paid or what happened when he got drafted. So the first night they called me, and then their scout was like, well, we'd like to sign you, but once you sign a contract with them, you lose your you don't lose your eligibility, but you lose your scholarship. So you can't receive a scholarship once you sign with the Astros. Okay. So because Marquette was an out-of-state school, I think it was when I was there, it was like $18,000 a year to go to school there, but back then Western was like half that. So they wanted me to quit. They was all right with me playing basketball, but they wanted me to transfer to Western and play, so it was a lot cheaper for them to pay my school. But I was like, no, I don't want to come back to Western, because my freshman year at college, we made the NCAA tournament. We actually upset Kentucky in the second round, so we actually played Grant Hill. His senior year was we played them in the Sweet 16 and ended up getting beat by them. But
it was pretty close too.
What's that?
I said it was pretty close too. I was looking that up. I know you guys made it to the Sweet 16. Yeah. Did you get a nice fat ring for that?
Yeah, we got it was a pretty sweet ring that says Sweet 16 on it. The 16s are like in diamond chips or whatever.
Nice.
So I was like, I'm not want to leave a school. We just managed the tournament, Sweet 16, to come back and play at Western, because we were playing in a better conference and better, and all that. But for the whole summer, they kept on trying to get me to leave Marquette. They didn't want to pay you the full $18,000 at Marquette for the next 3 years. So finally, after all summer talking to them, they're like, well, we only see you pitch for 10 minutes. We can't give you any more money. This is the most we can do, unless we come see you throw again. So I was playing for a summer league team in Battle Creek. So the scout from the Astros come and said, all right, I'm going to see you throw again. So I threw for him again. And then afterwards, I threw for him. He was like, I'm going to stay in town, and we want to sign you tomorrow. So they came to our house the next day, and they thought they talked to the NCAA, or if they post-dated my signing to the following year, they don't have to pay my junior and senior year at Marquette. So they'd be on the hook for $36,000 to pay for my school, and then my signing bonus. So I was like, okay. So I ended up signing with them. I hadn't talked to my coach at school, so I was kind of worried about what he's going to say. So me and my mom drove up the next day to talk to my basketball coach, and we walk into his office and we sit down. I'm like, Coach, Kevin O'Neill had left then, so we have a new coach. His name was Mike Dean. So I said, Coach Dean, got something to tell you. I said, I just signed a contract with the Houston Astros, and I was waiting for him to be all mad and start yelling, and what are you doing, and all this. And he looked at me, he's like, that's the best news I've ever heard. Nice. And I was kind of shocked, and I was like, why is that? He goes, well, you're technically a walk-on now, so that opens up another whole scholarship. Oh, wow. So he was happy that he was like, you're going to be the best walk-on in history. You guys, and plus you get another scholarship opens up. So, wow. Everything was going fine. I started that year, my sophomore year, and then the coach called me in, like I said, a couple weeks later, and he's like, we have a problem. He said, the NCAA we talked to, and they said the minute you sign, even though it was post-dated, they're not going to turn it into the following year. The minute you sign it, you lose your scholarship.
Oh, man.
So either the Astros have to pay another $18,000 or you can void the contract. So you have like 30 days to void it or whatever. So I called the Astros up and I'm like, we have a problem. I'm either going to void the contract or if you want to pick up another year at Marquette. So they ended up, a day later, they called back and like, all right, yeah, we're all set. So they ended up paying my last 3 years in Marquette was like $55,000 or $54,000, something like that. The Astros actually ended up paying the rest of my schooling at Marquette.
Nice. So much for student loans, like everybody else, guy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's just so.
How cool is that, though? That's awesome.
What I do between my sophomore and junior year, and junior and senior year, Marquette we got out later because we had like a really long Christmas break, so we didn't get out of school till like middle of May. So like last day of school, I'd take my last exam and drive home, and I'd be home for 2 or 3 days, and then I'd fly down to Florida and be down there all summer until like 4 days before school starts. I'd fly back and then drive back to school. So I actually would never even pick up a basketball during the summer months. So I was always, you have no time when you're playing in the minors.
Right.
So it's kind of two different things I had to do.
Sounds like you were wearing a lot of hats at the time.
Yeah, it was definitely quite busy. I think I said it was those 4 years in college. I was home for like 5 days a year, so 15 days total. I was either in Milwaukee or down in Florida. My first year, then my second year, I went down to Florida first, and I got moved up to the Class A team in Auburn, the big city of Auburn, New York.
Nice. Is it as big as it sounds?
Yeah, it's not too big. The main attraction was they have a prison like right downtown with 50-foot high concrete walls surrounding the place. So that was my introduction to Auburn, New York. Was one of the first things you drive in and you see the prison right there in the center of town.
Nice. Now, how was the transition between all that, going from basketball to baseball? Did you throw it all during basketball, or how did you prepare yourself for each sport?
It was I was always kind of behind because once the basketball season would get over, I would throw some, but not, I wasn't like in a program or anything. So once I would get down there, I was always behind. Where I remember like the first time I threw on the mound for them, they were like, "Oh, you're gonna throw for 5 minutes." And the next day I threw for 5 minutes, and a day off, and then the next time was 6 minutes, and then you kind of work your way up. And then the first time there was always a lot of pitch counts. So the first time I actually pitched in the game, I had a 20 pitch count, and it didn't go very good. I think my ERA after my first start was a whopping 81. Gave up 3 runs and got 1 out. So it didn't start off too well, but then said I just slowly would work up. Next outing was 25 pitches and 30 pitches, and then I was able to work it up where I was actually, towards the end of the year, I was actually starting every 5th day.
Nice. Now, what was it like traveling with the team down there?
Not the best. It was definitely different from coming from Marquette, where we chartered planes. The game would be over and we'd fly back and we'd be back in Milwaukee that night. And then you go down there. My first year I played it was called rookie ball. That we played, there was 4 teams in our little league. It was us, the Yankees, Toronto, the Blue Jays, and the Tigers. So we played 6 days a week, off on Sunday. So Monday and Thursday we'd play the Yankees. Tuesday, Friday we'd play the Blue Jays. Wednesday, Saturday we'd play the Tigers. We played 1 home, 1 away. So if you're home Monday, you're away Thursday. If you're home like that, and we did that all summer long. Exact same 3 teams all summer. And so we didn't stay overnight because those cities were close enough to drive. So like when we played the Yankees, we were in Kissimmee, Florida, right by outside of Disney World.
Yep.
We'd get there in the morning and we'd hop in 2 like 15 passenger vans and drive from Kissimmee to Tampa, play the game. The games were at 12 o'clock, so it was 100 degrees out at 12 o'clock every day.
Right.
We'd play the game, no showers or nothing, and hop back in and 15 passenger van for a 2-hour van ride home.
Right.
So it was definitely quite a shock of going from, we're chartering NBA planes in college to riding 15 passenger vans with, 15 guys that just played that were sweaty and stinky. So it was definitely a big adjustment at first.
All right. So what was the transition like from high school basketball to college basketball, both academically and game-wise?
Academically, I actually struggled my first year. I was actually, out of the 5 freshmen that came in, I think 4 of us were on academic probation the first semester, because I had never been, you're at home, your parents are always there. All right, do you have a test today? Yeah, well, then you got to go study. Or, but once you're away from school, it was always, I'll study later. So I didn't really realize how hard it was. And you start taking the test, and you're like, oh, crap, I just failed the test, or I got to start. So I kind of got off to a slow start. But then once I was able to kind of, budget my time, we're like, all right, instead of going out tonight, I'm going to study, or I'm going to go to the library. So it took me a semester to get kind of in the flow of how much I need to study and all that. And then on actual court-wise, it was kind of, I didn't play a whole lot my freshman year. So our coach was we weren't really an up-tempo. We were kind of more slow-it-down team. So we only played the 5 starters, and my roommate was a freshman with me. He played, and then we had another center that played. So we pretty much played 7, maybe 8 or 9 guys. So I think my freshman year, I only played like 12 or 13 games, something like that, 14 so I didn't really play a whole lot my freshman year. And then it was kind of, you're kind of in shock where, in high school you can get away with being lazy, or I don't have to really jump that high for that rebound, or once you in practice and you're playing against guys that are bigger and stronger than you and just as athletic and skill-wise, it was kind of like, oh, crap, if you don't give out 100%, I'm going to get my butt whooped. And I definitely had some of those days where you're like, wow, this is definitely a big jump.
Right. Well, you obviously did what it takes to make it to the next level. So at Marquette, you earned 4 letters. You were a 3-year starter, basketball 1997 Conference USA, 3rd team All-Conference. 1997, you were team MVP. You averaged 14.9 per game. So NCAA tournament, you went to the Sweet 16. You appeared in 3 NCAA tournaments. Seems pretty strong. Again, let's talk about the Sweet 16 run again.
So we played in the conference tournament, and we thought we were going to get a good seed, but we got beat by Cincinnati in the first round of the conference tournament, and the Great Midwest is a pretty small conference, so we were in the semis, I think was the way we finished in the regular season. So we ended up getting beat the very first game of the tournament, and I remember our coach was screaming at us, and you guys ruined your chance. We're not going to be a high seed now. And so we ended up getting a 6th seed, and we played, I think, Southwest Louisiana State the first game, and I actually got in that game towards the end, and we won pretty easy. And then so we played Kentucky in the second round. And it was all the hoopla, because of that would have been, if Kentucky would have beat us, they would have played Duke, and that would have been the first time they played since Christian Laettner hit the game winner.
Okay.
So that was all like a Kentucky Duke rematch from the years before, whatever. And we came out and kind of they were like a pressing team, and I'd never seen this before. Some of our coach, I don't know who told them that we had a big 7-footer, so instead of a forward or somebody taking the ball out of bounds, we had our point guard take the ball out, so they could just throw it up to the 7-footer, and he'd get it, and he'd get it right back to our point guard. He was really quick, good dribbler, so he was able to get the ball and kind of just broke the press by one man, just dribbling through it, and we had a great game and end up beating them. So it's kind of an eye-opening experience. The first time playing a tournament, and you're at 6 seed, and you get to beat Kentucky and Rick Pitino, and so it's kind of wild experience.
Now, going back to your game against Coldwater, do you think Kentucky kind of had the same mentality? Nothing against your team, but kind of had the same mentality that they were looking past you guys?
Oh, I definitely think, because I said it was all, because right when the seedings come out, people look for, all right, the matchup, first round, second round. It was going to be the big matchup. Said to Grant Hill against Kentucky and all that. So I think it definitely had a eye opener where I think they definitely were overlooking us somewhat, and then so we had a pretty good team. So we were hot that day, and they were kind of cold, and it was just one of those days where it seemed like everything we put up went in, and so it was a great experience to go through, being the first time being in the tournament.
Right. Any other great memories from Marquette?
Yeah, it was just actually probably besides that moment of beating Kentucky and playing Duke, my sophomore year. So we got a new coach, Kevin O'Neill. When we lost, we played Duke at the University of Tennessee. So it was on a Thursday, and then so we played the game, and after the game we go back to the hotel and go to sleep and all that, and we get on the bus the next morning to take us to the airport, and we're all looking around, and our coach isn't there. So all of a sudden the doors close, and we drive to the airport, and we're all like, "Where's the coach at?" Well, he had stayed in Tennessee to interview for Tennessee's job.
Oh, man.
So he had taken that job, and then so we had got a new coach. So it was some growing pains going through how the new coach's system and players getting along with them, and so we didn't have a great year that year, but we ended up making it to the NIT tournament, and we actually made it to the actual finals in Madison Square Garden. So we beat Penn State in the semifinals. So we were like my sophomore year, in New York City for like 7 days. So we stayed right downtown. We're in Times Square, so we got to go to all around New York. We got to go see. That was the year that Jordan unretired from the Bulls.
Okay. Number 45?
It was 45, and it was his first game back in Madison Square Garden. I think he scored like 45 or 50. And so we were able to go see that game, and it was just kind of a whole experience of being in New York City for a week. So that was probably my best time was actually playing in the tournament and doing all that and spending a week in New York, and just, so it was kind of cool. That was probably, besides the Sweet 16, that's probably right up there with one of the best experiences for us, as me and as a team as well.
What was it like playing Duke? I'm going to circle back on that one because I don't want to jump over that one, because it was Grant Hill, and I can't remember who else would have been. I know Leitner probably graduated the year before, so it should have been.
Yep, it was Grant. Yep, it was Grant Hill, Jeff Capel, Chris Collins.
Okay. Bobby Hurley, was he on the team, or did he graduate too?
No, he had graduated that following the year before he had graduated. So Grant Hill was probably like the only really big name besides I think Chris Collins and I think Jeff Capel and a couple other guys that were, I can't remember the exact names, but yeah, it was definitely, you're walking out, because back then they had the first, like now they kind of set the tournament up where they try to give you like home, they don't send you too far away from home.
Right.
They're trying to keep you in geographically or whatever. Well, back then, it was those 8 teams in that bracket, that side of the bracket, all played at one. So we played in St. Petersburg, Florida. So we were like, right after we practiced, Kentucky practice and Duke practice, so we're sitting there, and here comes Coach K walks by, and Grant Hill's walking by, and you're kind of like, oh my gosh,
right.
There's Coach K just walked by me, and we can play them. And so it's kind of, you grew up watching. I grew up actually hating Duke because of Leitner and all that. So I was, that I was back then. So I was like, I hated Duke, and you're walking by, and so it was definitely an eye-opening experience.
How about your last game in college? Do you remember that one?
Oh, yep. We had gotten my roommate, he started pretty much. He played a lot of our freshman year, and he started all 3 years with me too. He had dislocated his shoulder like right before Christmas, so we kind of went on a losing streak. So we weren't even sure. We were kind of going into the conference tournament. We were on a bubble. We were on the bubble going, and we knew we had to win 2 or 3 games at least. So we played DePaul on Wednesday. We played Memphis on Thursday, Cincinnati on Friday, and then UNC Charlotte on Saturday. So we were the first team ever to win 4 games of 4 nights.
Oh, wow.
So that kind of, once we beat Cincinnati, because they were ranked pretty high at that point, so we thought once we beat them, we were going to get in as at large at least. And then we ended up playing UNC Charlotte in the finals and beating them, so we wrapped up our automatic bid. So we ended up being an 8 or 9 seed. I can't remember which one. And we ended up playing Providence and Austin Crozier, and they had a really good group of guys. And I remember right at the first half buzzer, Austin Crozier hit like a 3/4 court shot to put him up 20 at half.
Oh, wow.
So right when that shot went in, I'm like, oh, it's been a good 4 years, but we're done. That was kind of a it wasn't one of those last-minute buzzer beaters where you think you're going to win, and then all of a sudden it's like a dagger. But this one was like kind of, I had a whole half to kind of put in perspective that we were going to be done after this game.
Okay, going into your senior season, did you have any idea that you were going to be drafted?
No, because at that point, once I started playing baseball, and I thought, I'd have a chance to play maybe overseas for basketball. And if I didn't do that, I was always just going to fall back on baseball at that point. But then I kind of thought I had a chance because a lot of like the Milwaukee Bucks players would come work out with us in preseason. It's like Big Dog, Glenn Robinson, Ray Allen, Sam Cassell, all these guys would come practice or play with our pickup games before the season started. And I was like, well, I'm actually able to hold my own somewhat against them. So I thought I had a chance. But then, you never know. And then I went after my senior year, I got invited to it's called Portsmouth Invitational. It's in Virginia. It's like they bring a lot of the seniors in from around the country, and then, they just split you up and you play games, 3 days of games or whatever. And then the first game I played there, I ended up having 30. So after that game, I got mobbed by, agents wanted to sign me, and then I interviewed with like 3 or 4 teams in the hotel during that weekend. So after that, I kind of thought I was going to have a pretty good chance, and then I got invited to the pre-draft combine in Chicago and did pretty well there. So I thought I had a pretty good chance, but at that point I wasn't sure exactly who, because, I had like 10 teams say there, oh yeah, we're interested, we just don't know what we're going to be able to do or who's going to be there. So I thought I had worked out for the Bucks a couple of times, so I thought they were picking like 42nd, so I thought, oh, maybe there. So once they did pick me, I'm like, I'm not sure what teams I'd really talked to that were still left. And I briefly talked to Atlanta, but then it happened to be on a commercial. So we're just sitting there at home, my mom and dad's house, and all of a sudden it came back from commercial, and there's my face up there. It says Atlanta Hawks selected Chris Crawford. So it was kind of, just a shock because I didn't hear your name of, getting announced. It's just all of a sudden your name popped up and you're like, oh crap, I just got drafted.
So the agents didn't call you and be like, hey, this is going to happen, be ready for it? Or it just kind of, bam, there it is?
They kind of didn't know. I mean, I talked to him throughout the night, but he wasn't, I wasn't going to be a high enough pick where like, all right, the Bulls would be like, all right, if he's there at 45th, we're picking him for sure. I didn't have any of that. So I knew I'd talked to some teams. I talked to Atlanta, so I knew there was, I think after Milwaukee picked, there was like 3 teams I talked to. I can't remember which one. I think one was Utah. Maybe, I can't remember who the third one. So I knew I had 3 teams left that I had actually talked to. So I was hoping one of those were, and, sure enough, I said I just briefly talked to Atlanta, and then sure enough, there they were.
What was going through your mind when that happened?
Just kind of just shocked because it's, I'm kind of more laid back, so I don't really get to, I wasn't screaming and all, just kind of just like, wow, you're just shocked that something you grew up dreaming about was being a professional athlete I'd already been that in baseball. So it was kind of like, I knew I had that to fall back on. So if it wasn't basketball, I knew I had something else where I knew I could be able to do. So it wasn't, if I didn't get drafted, it wasn't going to be the end of the world. I mean, obviously I wanted to, but I knew I had something to fall back on. So it wasn't, so I was just kind of just taking it in and just kind of just shocked and kind of in awe that I was going to get drafted.
Nice. Do you remember who got picked number 1 in the 97 draft?
Tim Duncan.
I was going to say, he was kind of a bust. So, I mean, I don't know if you...
Yeah, it turned out to be a good pick.
Yes. So, okay, you get drafted and you sign. Do you remember your first big purchase after you signed your deal?
I bought a car, I think. Well, actually, I really didn't. I didn't really buy anything. Before the draft, I bought, with my baseball money, I bought an expedition, or at least one. So that was kind of, I knew I had enough money from baseball to cover that, so I really didn't. And then once I got drafted, I didn't actually end up signing a contract until right before training camp started. So I got per diem when I was down there working out with them, but I never get my first paycheck. I didn't get paid until like November, once the season started. Wow. So November. So I really didn't really buy any like big purchases at that once I signed.
I don't want to talk numbers, but reality, when you got your first big check, what was like what hit you the most? Like how?
I was just shocked up because my rookie year, the minimum salary was like $242,000. So now the NBA works, unless you're like one of the making $20 million. Sometimes they spread those out different ways, but every other contract you get paid twice a month for 6 months. You get 12 checks of. So I think my first check was like 20-some thousand. I was like, I'd never seen that much money in my life, and it was kind of like, holy crap, you're gonna get one of these every 2 weeks. So it was kind of a shock of, well, I got money. I can go to the store and get 2 pairs of shoes that I want. Where growing up, it was, mom and dad are like, oh, you gotta get shoes for school and get shoes for sports, and that, you didn't have a lot of extra money to buy, things that you really didn't need, that you wanted at least.
I see all these players go back and buy like luxurious houses for their parents and kind of hook their parents up. Did you do something like that?
I paid my mom and dad's house off once because I signed a 1-year deal. Then the following year was the lockout of 98, 99 lockout. So when I got home after my rookie year, I actually I still lived with my mom and dad. So that lockout lasted until like January. So I was actually pretty home, I said, from like May to January. And then I signed another 1-year deal. And then that year is when we had a couple injuries. So like the last 30 games I was able to start. So then that's when I was able to sign a long-term contract. And then once I did that, I paid off my mom and dad's house. So that was, the big thing I did for them.
Nice. So what was it like going into camp as a rookie?
Kind of an eye-opener. You think, all right, you get drafted, you're going to sign, and you're going to be on the team. Well, back then there was 12 spots on the team, and then they didn't have like an injury report list. Or like now the team, you can have up to 15 guys on a roster. Well, back then they had 12. But what they did back then is they would lie about an injury. Like, all right, so-and-so's got a sprained ankle, so we're just going to stash him on the injury list. And he might be on the injury list for 2 months with a sprained ankle. Where our GM for the Hawks he'd put people on the injury list if they were injured, but he thought it was breaking the rules or it wasn't.
Right.
You shouldn't do that where you just make up injuries and put someone on the injury list. So going into camp, there was 10. Well, I found this out when I got down there. There was 10 guys that had guaranteed contracts. So there's 2 openings, and there was 9 guys for the 2 spots. So you're like kind of like going down there. I'm like, I want to be on the team. And then you show up for training camp, and then I thought it was just training camp was your team who you're going to the season with. I didn't realize it was 9 guys going to be there at training camp trying out these 2 spots. So that first practice, you're kind of like, wow, there's 9 guys, and there's only 7 of you. 7 of us are going to be going home with no team to play for. So that was kind of an opening that first training camp. We're like, oh crap, you gotta play every day, otherwise, because there'd be some practices where you play, and then you're in the locker room and someone walks in and says, hey Jimmy, so and so needs to see you. Well, then Jimmy comes back 10 minutes later and is like, hey, I'll see you guys later. I just got cut. So you're kind of like, that's when you kind of realize it is definitely a business where they can sign you one day and cut you the next. So that was kind of weird to realize that, you've been with this guy for 2 weeks and all of a sudden out of the blue he gets cut. So that was kind of weird, seeing how much of a business it is.
Are you familiar with the movie Major League?
Yep.
You remember them going through the whole cut process of like, was it they had the snake out trying to make sure he didn't get cut, kind of like that kind of mentality in the locker room?
Yep, having the whatever the sticker, whatever the little thing hanging down or whatever. Yeah, it wasn't like something was in your locker, but you definitely knew and they always did it seem like after practice too, where before they could tell you, but no, you'd go through a practice and you'd be sitting there and so-and-so would walk in and be like, hey, P. Babcock, the GM, wants to talk to you, and you hear that and you're like, you know what's coming. So it was definitely a weird experience to see guys all of a sudden you're on the team, and then all of a sudden, sorry, and then they're gone, they fly out that day.
So obviously you made it through the cuts. What was your rookie year like?
We actually we had a good team. We had our point guard was Mookie Blaylock. Then we had Steve Smith from Michigan State.
Yep.
Alan Henderson from Indiana. Christian Leitner. So I got to know him and got to become pretty good friends with him. And then Dikembe Mutombo was our center. So we actually started off, I think we won our first 12 games that year. So
nice.
we had a pretty good team, and then we kind of hit a skid. And I think we ended up being the 4th seed, and we played Charlotte in the first round, and back then it was the best of 5. And I think we got beaten 4 or 5 that round of that year. So it was kind of, I think I ended up getting into like 30 games maybe my rookie year. So didn't play a whole lot except when it was a couple times if someone was injured, I would play some early minutes, and then if not, it was when we were blowing somebody out or getting blown out, I'd play last. Back then they call it garbage time, but that was the time where I went in there and like if I got 2 minutes, I was gonna go as hard as I could for 2 minutes, because
you never know
when you're low on the totem pole, there's no guarantee this team will want you back, but if you go out there and play good in front of this team, maybe this team will like you. And so it's you kind of pretty much auditioning. If you don't have a long-term contract, you're kind of auditioning for pretty much every team out there that you want to put a good performance on tape. So when they do watch it live or looking back on it, they can see what you can do.
Now, was there any veterans that kind of took you under their wing?
Christian Leitner did. I was my rookie year, so he was kind of hung out with him. It's kind of what's weird about in college is you're in the dorm rooms, you're living with the guys, and you're with them pretty much 24/7. You're with them. Where unless you're on the road, like at home, these guys are. I was 22 years old, and they were some of them were 30, 35 years old with 3 kids, and they'd have kids that were about as old as they had 15-year-old, 16-year-old kids or whatever. So it's kind of they go to practice and they go home and be with their family, where I didn't, I wasn't married then, so it was kind of weird where we didn't have a lot of guys that were around my age, and so most of them were a lot of veterans on that team, so it was kind of, but Steve Smith did, Alan Henderson did. I mean, we had a really good group of older guys that kind of took all the younger guys kind of under their wing.
So what was it like playing with those guys, Leitner, Steve Smith, and Dikembe?
It was kind of, at first you're kind of just, you walk on the court and you're getting ready for practice, you're just shooting around, and they're like Steve Smith, and you're looking around like, I watched him growing up at Michigan State, and you watch Leitner, and then after, the first couple of times, you just kind of, it really did, they're just another, kind of sounds weird, and I don't know how you say it, they're just normal people really too. But once you get past oh my gosh, there's Leitner, or there's Dikembe or Mookie Black. I remember watching him when he was in Oklahoma in 87 or 88, whatever it was. So it's kind of, you see them and you're kind of awestruck for a moment. Then once a few days after that, you start, you're with them a lot. You just kind of are just normal dudes just like you are. So it's kind of, so after that first initial moment where you're kind of awestruck, it just kind of just settled down and it's almost just normal at that point.
Who was your favorite teammate?
Probably, I'd say Alan Henderson. So we were together probably the longest. I think we played together for maybe 5, almost 6 years. So after my first 2 years, Steve Smith was getting hurt. He had a bad knee, and so we played that lockout year. We played, a couple times we played back-to-back games. So his knee kind of took him out of that season. So we got upset. We beat the Pistons the first round. Then we got upset we were the, I think, 4th seed, and then we got beat by, that was when New York beat Miami, who was the 1 seed, 8 beat a 1. And then New York ended up beating us. So after that, they kind of split it up. They traded Steve Smith away and to Portland, and then we got Mookie Blaylock got traded, and so it was kind of then they said we brought in some new guys. So it was kind of after that, it was more of kind of guys coming through every year. We didn't really have a set where it said besides me and Alan Henderson, we were the only ones there that were for quite a while. Other than that, it was a big turnover after my first couple of years.
So going from your first year, did your mentality kind of change going into the next camp as far as your second season?
Yeah, because we looked at it like a lot of the guys that weren't playing a lot kind of looked like our practices were, especially once the season starts, unless you're playing so many games, you're playing 3 or 4 games a week where unless you have 2 or 3 days off in between practices, you really don't practice. So we always look forward to the guys that weren't playing. When we did have those breaks where we had 3 or 4 days off, then we knew we were going to scrimmage against, usually it's reserved against the starters. So it's kind of, we used those kind of practices almost, I looked at them like they were my games. So I wasn't playing much, and instead, unless we were winning or getting blown out, I used those practices to think, all right, these are my games. I'm going to go out there and play and, kind of just see if I was actually able to compete against these guys. Because I know we were like 4 or 5 seeds, so we're one of the better teams. So if I could, in practice, so I could hang with them, I can pretty much hang with anybody in the league. So I kind of use that as these are my games, and I want to show everyone, the GM and whoever, the coaches and all that I'm actually able to compete against these guys.
Nice. So being in the NBA, was it like being a rock star?
Not too bad. I mean, like I said, we were one of the better teams after my first couple years, so we didn't have like a lot of the hoopla. I know like one of my good friends was a trainer that he came from the Bull. He was assistant with the Bulls back when they were going through their title runs, and you hear stories when they come off a plane or bus ride in the hotel, the hotel would just be packed, people waiting for them, and where when we show up at a hotel is usually have the same guys from every time you'd show up there that they knew when the bus was coming to sign autographs. It was pretty much they were trying to have people sign and sell them because there weren't a lot of younger kids. There were more older guys that you'd see the same ones in every city. So other than that, it wasn't. I mean, I'm sure some teams, like I said, like the Bulls and all that, were more like rock stars, where we really didn't have any of that like super all-stars that had huge names, so it wasn't as much as I'm sure other teams are like.
So what was it like adjusting to the life in the game?
A lot of free time, a lot of downtime. It was just kind of just getting used to the travel. But I mean, it's hard in some way, but some ways it's not. Like when we would fly, when we played in Detroit, say we played on a Saturday, we'd fly up Monday afternoon after practice. So we'd have Monday night in that city. So like my mom, dad, or if I had family or from that area, I'd usually go out to eat with them or whatever. And then the day of the game, you pretty much you have shoot around in the morning, and then you play the game. And then once the game's over, they usually put up like a time or 45 minutes after the game, the bus is leaving, and we get on the bus, and the bus would go right to the hotel, or it would go right to the airport. Right. So like when we said we played in Detroit, I would actually be home in my apartment in Atlanta before my mom and dad got home to their house in Kalamazoo.
Wow.
It was that quick because you always said you had to go through, the bus would pull right up next to the airplane. So you walk up the stairs of the bus and onto the stairs of the plane, and they throw the bags on and you were gone. So there was so that way it's not as much, you don't have to go through security and all that stuff.
Right. So
that was a lot different. So it made it definitely a lot easier. And you travel first class. I mean, you stay in the nicest hotels, so they have everything for you. So you're not going through the airport with luggage and all that. So they have people that bring the luggage to your room, and so it's definitely first class. So it's just the days on the road what get long, but just a regular road trip is not. So you're flying so much first class and treated that way that it's not a big deal after a while.
So what was it like living in Atlanta?
We liked it. We said I was down there my first 3 years. I lived in an apartment. My wife Stacy was still teaching at Comstock, And then once we got married in 2000, she left teaching and came down and obviously lived in Atlanta, so we had a house down there. So we liked it a lot. It was the only bad thing was the traffic.
Yeah,
That's what
no kidding.
it's terrible about. Yeah. So when I lived in my apartment, I'd have to take the highway, which, might take it 15 minutes one day and then take an hour the next day. So you always had to plan ahead. But once we finally bought a house down there, it was a road that it took me 20 minutes, no matter if it was 5 o'clock or midnight. It was just one road I hopped on, and it went right from our house right to the arena. So that was actually a lot easier, because then you didn't really have to leave. You knew exactly how long it was going to take you. So, but we liked it. The weather was, you can't complain, especially in the winter when it's 10 degrees and snowing down there, and it'd be 45 and sunny down there. It was definitely get used to that.
How'd you spend your off seasons?
I'd always come home and so I'd usually take 2 or 3 weeks off and then start back up here. I worked out. My high school coach was still teaching then, so I worked out at Comstock and go shoot with him pretty much every day. And then so I just had a couple guys I lifted around here, and then just did a lot of my conditioning and rode a bike a lot and stuff like that. So I was always back home in Michigan during the off season.
What was your favorite city to play in?
I'd have to say L.A. was definitely, the first time you walk out and there's Jack Nicklaus sitting there, and you see Denzel Washington and all these guys, they're over there sitting courtside, and you're like kind of like, oh. It was I definitely enjoyed that. New York was cool. I always seemed like I played pretty good in New York. So I'd say L.A. and New York were probably my 2 favorite ones.
Definitely a lot bigger than Kalamazoo.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Okay, what was the worst place to play in?
They're all, I think pretty much everyone had a decent arena. And once you're on the court, all the same, but some of them, like the Pistons, locker rooms were terrible. They eventually upgraded as years went on. And where the Nets played was terrible. The locker rooms were terrible. In Sacramento, those are probably the worst 3 where, they didn't have. And actually, New York the locker rooms were terrible until we did Madison Square Garden. Yeah, it was a couple of them. You walk in, some of the places like L.A. would have each of you had your own stall and all that. But like New York and Sacramento, they had a chair there and they had some couple hooks behind you, and that was the locker room.
That's crazy. It's like you're back in the minor leagues.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But once Mark Cuban he came in. Like the first time we played there, when he became the owner, like after the game, we walked in the locker room and we look over the side and there's a spread of food, a buffet of barbecue and all that waiting for us to eat. And Cuban provided that for the opposite team because he wanted to show people, like, look how good I'm treating you guys. You guys are the visitors, and I'm treating you, giving you a buffet and all this. What do you think I do for my own teammates? So it's kind of to show everyone how they treat the players and how much they're willing to do for their team.
This wasn't a pregame meal, was it? Trying to fatten you up?
No, definitely afterwards.
Who was your favorite player to guard?
Michael Jordan.
Nice. Good old MJ.
My rookie year was his last year with the Bulls. So then he sat out, obviously, 2 years. And then when he came back for the Wizards, we played them early on, second, third game in the season. And I came in the second or late first quarter and happened to be the one guarding him. And then actually, I think he had like 10 or 12 in the first quarter. And then I pretty much guarded him the rest of the game. And he ended up with 29. But so that was kind of, towards the end of the game, we were fouling because they were winning. And, I'm walking to the free throw line. And he walks by me and sticks his hand out. And he's like, "Good game, CC." So it was kind of like, holy crap, Michael Jordan knows my name. And, so that was kind of probably my most exciting experience of being in the NBA and guarding somebody that you looked up to, growing up my whole life, being a Jordan fan, and all of a sudden now you're out there guarding him pretty much the whole game. It was kind of cool. Did
he trash talk as bad as everybody says he does?
Oh, yeah. Yep. He'd get the ball. One time he had the ball on top of the key, and he's like, "How do you want it?" You want me to shoot it? You want me to drive? You tell me. And, you're kind of like staring. He goes, up, tell me. Tell me.
Wow, that's funny.
And then all of a sudden, boom, he goes by and he's like,
Told you.
goes, and the next time he's like, I told you. Tell me how you want it. I'll do you. I'll score on you whichever way you want. So it was kind of, you're like, holy crap, it's Michael Jordan's talking crap to me.
Is that the point in time you realized you made it then?
Kind of, yeah. At that point, I was, because I was probably 3 or 4 years in, so I knew at that point I could play, but it was like, once he retired, he never thought, I'm never going to get on the court again with him. And then once he came back, you're like, holy crap, I got to guard him, play against him. So yeah, it was definitely the most exciting experience probably on the court in my career so far, or at that point.
Who was the worst person to guard?
Oh, I don't know who's. No one in the NBA. No one's bad. They can all. I remember my rookie year in the preseason. We were playing the Lakers, and I don't even, to this day I still don't remember the guy's name, but he let me up so bad. He scored about 18 straight on me. He just kept on coming up picks and just nailing shot after shot, and I'm like, I never heard of this guy, and he's killing me like this. So at that point, you're like, holy crap! Anyone out here has the ability just to kill you, because everyone who's there was a star or had talent in college, and now they pick the best out of the best from college. So right. Obviously, anyone who's there can, obviously there's a reason why they're there. So that was kind of the one, like, guy I never heard of just lit me up for 18 points in about 3 minutes.
Asking almost the same question, but differently. I probably should have asked it this way. Who was the hardest person to guard? Tracy
McGrady.
T-Mac.
It was when he was with Toronto. Was it Toronto? No, Orlando. He got traded he left Toronto to play Orlando. Yeah, and he had one game, I think I wasn't guarding him the whole time, but I think he ended up like 54 or something. He was just pulling, because most of the guys, I was either taller, like when I played small forward, I was always bigger than them, so I was able to, kind of stay off. They were usually quicker than me, but I was able to use my height, so I was able, kind of back up in some way. I could still get a hand in their face, and then when I was playing power forward, I was usually quicker than them, so I could use that to my advantage when I was on offense. And we had Dikembe back there on defense, so if they did get around you, it wasn't the worst thing in the world.
Right.
But he's like 6'8". He's about my height and could shoot from anywhere. I was athletic and could dribble. It just seemed like I always had a tough time whenever I was on him.
Now, do you have any crazy stories?
Not too crazy. No, nothing really outrageous. No, yeah, nothing really that was ever too crazy.
Were you ever starstruck with anybody, I guess?
I remember seeing Jordan for the first time and seeing, for some reason, Patrick Ewing. I don't know why. Just growing up watching him in Georgetown and all that. Well, it was one of our first games we played, and I remember running out, and somehow we were both walking for the ball or something out there, and so we both got, I think we were both, instead of warm-ups, we were both going for a ball on the ground, and we kind of get to the same time, and he picks it up and just tosses it to me, and I kind of looked up. I'm like, holy crap, that's Patrick. He just, just tossed me the ball. So it's kind of, that was one of the ones I looking back, I realized now I knew at that moment, I knew I had to be just like staring a hole right through him.
Did you ask for anyone's autograph while you were there?
I didn't. My first few years, I didn't. And then my wife was kind of like, we used to always have signed balls and stuff for charities and all that. And so someone got something signed, and my wife was always, hey, you should get this person to sign a ball. So my last couple of years, I'd always, whoever we were playing, and most of the guys were, because everyone signs stuff here and there. So I was always, when we were playing, I'd get like Tim Duncan or Stockton, Malone. I got a ball signed from them. I got a ball with Kobe and Shaq on it. So I get, the bigger names, the guys that were playing at that time. I got quite a few balls signed. I got a pair of Pippen shoes signed, and then Dwayne Wade went to Marquette, so I knew him, and so he gave me one of his pairs of shoes after game and signed them for me, and so I was able to get some pretty cool memorabilia from my time there.
I was going to say, playing. Your memorabilia room must be like insane.
Yeah, that's I got quite a few, somewhat. of people that said, I think I didn't even realize it until a few years ago, and my daughter was asking me, who's this and whatever, and I looked down and I couldn't figure it out, and finally I looked closer and it was a ball signed by LeBron, because he was my last 2 years were his first 2 years, and I didn't even remember getting a ball signed by him. I just was down there looking, and I'm like, holy crap, there's LeBron's ball.
Nice.
So I have most of the stuff's in my mom and dad's, so all packed away, and a lot of it's set in boxes and stuff, so I don't have a lot of it out at my house. It's kind of packed away for now.
Do you have any intentions of like making a big, huge room and displaying everything?
Eventually, yeah. We've been contemplating about selling our house or building a new house, so it's kind of a lot of our stuff's put away in storage units, and mom and dad's house, they have a lot of all my college stuff in boxes, and so eventually I'm going to get it all out and hopefully get it up and put it in a room somehow and display it all.
So you said Kobe and Shaq. What was it like meeting Kobe and Shaq? I'll get both of them in there.
Zach, I remember the first time I played against him, we were at a free throw line, and we were shooting, and he went to box me out, and so they released the ball, and I'm like, I'm going to go get this rebound. And I took a step, and I hit. It felt like a brick wall. It was just, I was like, I'm going to, you're just going to force your way in here. I'm going to push this guy in the back, and I went and hit him and just completely stopped, and I was like, oh, there's no way I'm moving this guy, so I'll just run back on defense. That was kind of he is just a massive dude.
Nice. Who's the coolest non-NBA player that you met?
Non-NBA, met no one. I really met some of the Braves players, because the team owned the Hawks and the Braves, so we were able, and the president of the Hawks is president of the Braves too.
Yep.
So we'd go and get to meet, go down to the Braves clubhouse, and Glavin and Smoltz and guys like that. And then some of the hockey players said the trainer that came from Chicago was a big hockey fan. So like when we go to play in Phoenix, the Red Wings are in town, so we got to go down there and meet, Chris Chelios and some of those guys. So it's kind of cool meeting some, different athletes around from different sports.
Now, did you ever get to meet Dominique Wilkins?
Yep. When I first got in the league, he had gone overseas, and then he came back and was playing for Orlando. And we actually played against him my first couple of years. And then once he retired, my last 2 years, he came back and was kind of like a vice president for kind of like, he'd go out and do charity events and kind of stuff like that. So, yeah, my last couple of years, we got to know him pretty good, and he was around pretty much all the time.
What was it like seeing yourself in a video game?
I'm not a big video game person, but I did. But in college, we always had my roommate and I had, like I said, Sega. I think it was Sega Genesis way back when. That's how long ago it was.
Yeah.
But then they did come out with, I think it was NBA Live, one of those, and so I actually somehow. I had a nephew come down, and we bought for Christmas or something, so we bought one of the games. I think it was Nintendo 64, one of those. I'm not even sure which one it was. And we bought the game, and sure enough, we got home, and he hooks it up, and there's your name on the screen. It's kind of weird seeing yourself playing, a game. You grew up playing video games, and all of a sudden you look up and you see your name on the screen. It was kind of a weird experience.
Were you upset at your ratings?
No, I was just happy to be on there. No, it was. Honestly, I don't remember if I even played it. I just remember watching him play it or somehow. So I didn't even look, because I said I'm not a big video game guy, so I didn't end up playing it ever again. But I still have it somewhere around our house. It's tucked away in a box somewhere.
Nice. Okay, you played 7 seasons in the NBA. When did you realize it was time to hang it up?
Well, I played 8. I was on a roster for 8 years. So my first, I think it was year 5. Year 4, I had ankle surgery. I kept spraining my ankle. I had a couple big bone spurs. They had to come out. They shaved down on my ankle. I think that was year 4. And then year 5 was the year I came out, had a good first few games, and tore my ACL. So I missed the rest of that year. No, that was when was it? Year 5, I think it was. So then I missed that year, and then the following summer I re-injured it during summer league games. Like I wasn't playing summer league, but they'd have like a week of practice before they went to summer league. So I was practicing with them because I just got cleared to play, and I re-injured it, so I had to have another surgery. So I ended up having microfracture surgery. So I missed pretty much 2 years fully from my left ACL. And then my 7th year is when we traded for Rasheed Wallace, and we got him, then we traded on the Pistons. The year the Pistons won, the last 30 games I started all 30 games and averaged like 17 for those 30 games. And then the following training camp, first or second preseason game, I went in for a layup, and Kevin Garnett was behind me. And somehow, can't remember if he stepped, I planted my leg, and it just gave out and blew out my right ACL.
Oh, wow.
So I ended up having surgery and missed. I was on the roster, but then they ended up doing a trade, so I got waived like halfway through that year. But I still stayed around. I traveled with the team and all that, just doing my rehab. And then I was a free agent, so I went to a workout with the Bucks, a 2-day workout where I worked out for them, and then that was like Saturday and Sunday. And then I was supposed to fly home like Sunday night, but they called my agent and whatever. It was like, hey, can you stay around tomorrow and just have him once he's in town, we can just do an MRI now, and just to make sure his knee's all right, because then we'll work out a deal to sign him. So I did all the tests and got home, and they called, and they're like, oh, you failed your physical. Something didn't look right on the MRI. So I talked to the doctor again, and he's like, that could just be once they sew your meniscus up, somehow it shows that it's torn, but it's not. And I was playing good in these workouts, and I thought I was running good. I mean, it still was a little sore, but I thought I was just, you're coming back from ACL, it's going to be sore. So I went out. I ended up working out for Philadelphia, New Jersey, and then I worked out with the Nuggets in Vegas. I flew out to Vegas and worked out with them. And so I was still talking to these teams, and then one workout I was doing something at home, and I was like, something doesn't feel right. So I went back out. I had my second ACL surgery I had done in Vancouver. So I went back out and saw him, and he went back in there, and there was a little piece of the meniscus when they sewed it up had split open again. So it was causing irritation in my knee, so it was swollen up. So I went in there and cleaned that up. So I was like, all right, I got 6 more weeks of rehab before the season. I'll be fine. But somehow it just didn't feel right. And then somehow when they went in there again the second time, a piece of scar tissue never dissolved. It almost got like hard. So it was almost like a piece of bone or something in there. So every time I'd run, it was slowly like eating away at my meniscus. So I was having these particles, all this stuff floating around in my knee joint that was making it swell. So I had to have another surgery, and they cleaned it up. I thought I was good. And then still working out again, trying to get back. I thought I was close again, was going to go work out from Minnesota. But every time I got to a point where I thought I was almost done, I'd have one time I was just jogging, getting warmed up for a workout, and turned too quick, and I felt something like a sharp pain. So I had to go back in there again. So it was 2 or 3 years after my last year playing where finally getting around where, all right, I think I'm going to be able to do it, and then I have a setback. And then our oldest daughter was born, and then after a few years of doing it over and over, I was 32 or 33 or maybe 34. I think I was 33, and finally I was like, I've had enough. I'm decided to call it quits and move on. And so we said we had our daughter. She was 2 years old at the time, so I was like, I'm just kind of done with it. Got tired of working back, and getting disappointed again, having something wrong with her knee, and so that was kind of frustrating to know that the reason I was not playing it was because of my knee, rather than it almost was better off where, all right, you got done playing and you couldn't do it anymore. talent-wise, where I think that would have been better off knowing that the reason I had to quit was because of injury, or not my talent was, slowly getting bad. So that was kind of probably the frustrating part at the end of my career, is having to deal with that.
So what are you up to now?
Yeah, so the two girls that keep us busy. They both do travel soccer, and my oldest is dead frog volleyball. So every day it seems like my wife goes one way and I go the other way. Just raising them and just spending as much time with them as possible.
All right. Now it's time for the fun segment of the show, a chance to get to know the other side of Chris Crawford. Is there any special talents that most people don't know you possess?
No, not really. I don't think there's anyone that really. No, not really.
Okay. If they made a movie about you, who would star in it?
Woody Harrelson.
Well, that's a great one.
That time I went down with Pat Knight, and I was down there. Tim Knight, I was down there. A lot of the guys. That was when kind of White Man Can't Jump came out, and so my nickname all through college was Woody, from Woody Harrelson. So I guess I'd have to say him.
Who would be your love interest?
I'm not sure. I don't know about that one.
Is your wife listening? No, I'm just kidding.
No, she just popped her head in, but no, I'm not sure who would play that.
That's fine. If you could go back in time and observe any event in history without changing the outcome, what event would you go to?
I'd probably like to see my grandpa be able to pitch at some point.
That's
knowing
a good
that,
one.
Getting shot in the war and losing his career because of that, I probably would maybe like to go see. That's probably one thing I wish I would be able to see of him playing baseball.
If you could meet any celebrity, who would it be?
Oh, no one.
You've met everybody?
I'm not a celebrity type like that. I'm not one that would like to have the cameras around me. I'm just I would do my thing and just kind of slowly ease away from the situations. I definitely wouldn't want to be one of those celebrities with cameras in your face 24 hours a day.
Right. Any songs on your playlist that you might be embarrassed if I looked at it?
No, I actually, growing up, I listened to rap and all that in middle school and high school. And one thing I hated was country. I never listened to country at all. Then I met my wife and got married, and now it's pretty much all country.
It's funny how that works out.
Yeah, exactly. Never listened to one country song ever, and then now it's every channel on my radio or at home is pretty much all country.
Is there any movies or TV shows that you guys watch?
We've been watching a lot of like the ID, Dateline, 2020, kind of those mysteries, kind of sports here and there. I don't watch a ton of sports on TV. I actually watch the sport I watch probably the most is golf during the summer, and then so I'm a huge playoff hockey fan. So once the regular season, I watch the Red Wings here and there, but once playoffs come, I pretty much watch it every night for the whole entire the NHL, the Stanley Cup playoffs. Probably my one that, and said like 2020 and Dateline shows like that.
Now, do you ever go out and ice skate?
I still play hockey.
Oh wow!
I never played from 7th grade. Probably 10 years ago. My dad, he played goalie, still plays. My brother was really good. He still plays in over 30 leagues. So I was at my mom and dad's watching the Lions game one day, and my dad's like, "Hey, you ever think about playing?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it'd be kind of cool." He's like, I go home. He calls me up. He goes, "Can you play tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Okay." So I drove around trying to find skates and equipment. So that was 10 years ago, and we still are doing it. So it's over 30 league at Lawson at Western. So we play usually start in October and go until March. Usually like every Sunday, Tuesday, or Sunday, Thursday. So it keeps me. That's my somewhat of a workout. If you call it a workout, that's what we do.
So with skates on, you're what, 7'3"?
Yeah, it's probably something like that. Yeah,
kind of stick out.
Definitely got a long stick. Definitely don't. I always have to. Most guys when they get a stick cut have to cut it out, cut some off. I always have to ask for a plug-in or a plug so it can make it a little bit longer.
Nice. Now going back to your pregame playlist, what kind of stuff did you listen to get you pumped up?
So we usually have a team in the locker room like a radio, so it was their stereo, whatever. So it was definitely some kind of the hip hop rap that was big at that time was definitely what's going to be played in our locker room.
Nice. Did you have any weird pregame rituals or routines?
No, I didn't have any. I didn't like eating a lot before, so usually like in the NBA after the shoot around, I was really good close to our strength coach and trainer. So usually like we'd get off on a road trip, we'd get off the bus and shoot around, we'd go eat, said probably like 1 o'clock, and then come home and come back to the hotel and take a little nap, and then wake up and get ready, have another little snack, but it wasn't nothing like I didn't have to have something the exact same thing all the time. A lot of chicken,
nice.
Stuff like that for the game.
Now, are you a Gatorade or a Powerade fan?
Gatorade.
Any specific?
Can't do Powerade. Not a huge Powerade fan. Gatorade all the way.
Do you remember All Sport?
Yep.
How awful that was.
Yeah, definitely a Gatorade man.
Now, going back, both showing our age real quick, did you ever have a pager?
I did not have a pager. A lot of my friends did. I don't think my mom did. It was either, I don't know if I wanted one or they wouldn't buy me one, but I know my best friend had one, and definitely I know people that had them. I definitely do remember those.
Now, do you remember your first cell phone?
Yep. Actually, the first cell phone, my mom and dad had one. They got one towards the end of my college career. They had one because early on, they wouldn't drive to many games because it was late night and the hour time change going through Chicago and all that. But my senior year, they started, because obviously it was going to be my last year, they started coming to a lot more games during the weekend or during the week. So they bought one so you'd have in case they broke down at night, 2 or 3 in the morning going through Chicago. And I remember it was almost like a little briefcase thing. It was like in a package or whatever. You kind of put it over your shoulder. It was kind of, yeah. That was the first one I remembered of how big and bulky it was looking back now.
Now, did you wear your socks high or low?
Low, definitely low.
If you could have one job the rest of your life, what would it be?
Professional golfer.
Nice. That probably, I got another. What sport do you wish you could be good at?
Golfing. I love playing, and I've gotten better since I play it more. But now that the kids are doing sports, I don't get out as much as I would like. But definitely, if I could choose one sport where I definitely like playing, it'd be definitely that.
Now, are you a Nike fan or Adidas fan?
I was a Nike. Actually, my first year at Marquette, we were Adidas, and then we went to Nike. And then when I first got the NBA, I wasn't that big a name, so I didn't get really like a shoe contract thing. I just kind of get whatever everyone else was wearing, so I wore pretty much everything my first year. And then back when Converse was still, before they went bankrupt, now they made a comeback, but I was with Converse for 2 or 3 years, and I said they went bankrupt, and then I went for Nike for a couple of years, and then my last year I was actually back when And One was getting big.
Yeah, I remember that.
So, yeah. So pretty much the two out of the 3 I wore in the pros, they end up pretty much going under. So I don't know if I had anything to do with that or not.
Right. But. I had a belief that just like kind of the Madden cover, you get on the Madden cover, you get injured, but I had the first.
I jinxed the shoe companies.
I was thinking that when I had a couple of the guys on my first podcast, they kind of went downhill as far as their playing career goes, but they bounced back. But still, you kind of think of that, kind of jokingly wondering if that really happened or not. But yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of weird how that happened like that.
Okay, favorite sports movie?
Hoosiers,
great movie. Yep. Still, I'll watch it anytime it's on TV. I'll sit down and watch it, and it bugs the crap out of my wife.
Yep, that's one of those ones that seems like whenever it's on, if I'm flipping through the channel and I see that, I'm definitely going to watch it till the end.
All right. Is there anything special that you collect?
Nope, nothing. No collectibles here. I used baseball cards when I was younger, but not anymore. So nope, nothing. Don't collect anything specific.
What's your to-go meal to cook when you're by yourself?
It would have to be going to Bimbo's Pizza and picking up a pizza and bringing it home and eating it.
I love Bimbo's. I haven't had that in forever.
That's my favorite. It's just bad even now. Is last time I was there, a couple times ago I was there, is they do frozen pizza now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I went there one time where we ate there, and he was like, yeah, you try our frozen pizza. And I'm like, what? He said, yeah, they make it, and they like freeze dry it with some kind of bag. So he said, you just pretty much, you take it, has to be frozen, just take it right out of the freezer, put it in the oven at like 450, and 10 minutes later, you got Bimbo's Pizza.
Nice. I'll have to try that. What was your favorite place to travel to?
Probably somewhere in the Caribbean. Nice. We've gone on a few cruises, my wife and I, and then last few years, my mom and dad, they go on one every year. So this year and then 2 years ago, they took my mom and dad took my family, my brother and his daughter on one. So we're definitely, Jamaica and Bahamas. Definitely somewhere in the Caribbean would be my spot.
Do you burn easily?
Yep, that's the bad thing. I like being out in the sun, but I'm gonna find some shade, or my wife always jokes when we go somewhere, she can lay out all day, and every 20 minutes I'm making sure I'm as much sunscreen and whatever is possible.
Nice.
That's one thing I do not like to do is, once I tan, I'm good, but it's that first initial of getting fried that's the worst.
All right. First ever car.
A red Illumina I bought from my mom and dad.
Nice. Going old school. All right. Finally, this is my favorite part of the show. We're going to wrap it up. It's a chance to get to know, how well do you know Chris? I'm going to ask you questions about famous people named Chris. See how well you know Chris. It's a little pop culture kind of thing going on. So,
okay.
Number one, name the Chris. This Chris played Tommy Boy and was part of the SNL when SNL was still good. Name the Chris.
Oh, I know this one for sure because I actually got a chance to meet him. Chris Farley. He actually went to Marquette.
Are you kidding me? I didn't know that.
No, and so when that, right before he, like maybe a couple years before he died, he actually came to one of the games at Marquette, so we got to meet him. So it was kind of, he was telling some hilarious Marquette stories when he went there.
He didn't do like the van down by the river speech to you guys, did he?
No, but he had a thing called Naked Beer Slides. There was one bar, it was called, can't remember the name of the bar, but it was pretty much like a concrete floor, and people would clear out and they'd pour beer on the floor, and him and his friends would pretty much naked and start at one end of the floor and run as fast as they could and slide across it. They used to call it Naked Beer Slides. So that was one of the stories he was telling us.
Nice. All right, 1 for 1. Okay. Number 2, name the Chris. This Chris played in 2 Marvel comic characters, the Human Torch and Captain America. Name this Chris.
Is it Hemsworth?
No, it's Chris Evans.
No. Chris Evans, no.
Hemsworth.
Not a big Marvel fan.
Oh, okay. Are you a DC guy or just not a movie guy?
Just not a huge movie. Not those kind of character movies, kind of.
Right. All right, 1 for 2, not bad. The fact that you knew that Chris Hemsworth was Thor, I'll give you partial credit for that one. Yeah, he played Thor.
For some reason, I thought he played one of those characters.
Yep, he was Thor. Number 3, name the Chris. This Chris was a member of Michigan's Fab Five. Name the Chris.
Weber.
You ever get a chance to play against him or meet him?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, he was with Washington when I first got in the league, and then he was in Sacramento. So, yep, definitely played against him.
Bonus points. Can you name the rest of the Fab Five?
Yep, Jalen, Jimmy King, Juwan Howard, and Ray Jackson.
There you go, bonus points.
That was my team growing up.
Yep.
That was definitely what if they were around, we were going to be watching them somewhere.
Right. I was so upset when they lost to Duke. Yeah.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, was it North Carolina the next year? Am I correct?
Yep, I know.
The infamous timeout game.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Those were
rough times.
Yep. But
all right.
Wouldn't miss the games though.
All right. Number 4. Name the Chris. This is another former SNL member. He's also a famous comedian, actor, and he played in several movies such as Grown Ups, The Longest Yard, and Madagascar. Name the Chris.
Oh, it's not Chris Rock, is it?
Yep, it is Chris Rock. Yep.
Is it?
Yeah, it is Chris Rock.
When he said the other one from Saturday Night Live, I thought it was him. Then he named it in the movie, and I wasn't sure if he was in the movie. So
yeah,
that was a guess.
Yeah, The Longest Yard. Of course, he's one of Adam Sandler's boys. So I wanted to see what other things he was in that wasn't Adam Sandler driven. So. Yeah. And I figured since you had kids, you'd understand the Madagascar reference.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, all right. Finally, name this Chris. Again, this is another Marvel comic. This Chris starred in Parks and Recreation and as Star-Lord in the Marvel comic universe. Name the Chris.
You got me on that one. No clue.
Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt. Yep.
Yep. So, yep.
I actually graduated with Chris Pratt, but obviously not that one. So, nope, had no clue on that one.
Yep. Well, you got the bonus points with knowing all the Fab Five. A lot of people forget like Jimmy King and Ray Jackson, so they know.
Oh yeah, yep.
How do you feel about Juwan Howard coming back to Michigan?
I think it could be good. I think especially with him having a kid young and going through AAU would definitely help in the recruiting battle, knowing those guys and kind of getting, so I especially like you look at Memphis and now with Penny Hardaway coming back, he kind of was doing that same thing, coaching AAU, and now I think they have like the number one recruiting class in the country. So I think it'll definitely help them on their recruiting, knowing, having in on the kind of the AAU level, and then having his contacts in the NBA, I think will help, guys that kids will go there to, if he has an in with Pat Riley and all the people he's coached with. So I think he'll do a good job.
Good. Yeah, I look forward to see what he can do at Michigan. So
yeah.
Again, that's it. Thank you very much. Is there any shout outs or anything you want to talk about before we go?
No, just thanks for having me, and appreciate you having me on here, and finally able to get it locked down and actually able to do it. I know it's been a while of you going back and forth, but
right.
I'm glad you had me on. And
does it still seem like yesterday? Because you're rattling stuff off like it happened yesterday.
Yeah, those things, it kind of seems like some days it seems like just yesterday I was playing again, and then the other times I wake up and it's like when I try running or doing something with the kids, it's like, holy crap, I can't even run anymore. I feel so out of shape. So that times it doesn't feel like right on, like yesterday, but sometimes it definitely does.
So are we going to see a Chris Crawford make it back into the big three?
No, that won't be happening. If I could stand there and cheer on the corner, I might be able to do a chance, but no, it'd take me, by the time I got ready maybe to be able to get right out there, the league might be folded by then. I don't know. It's been so long of me running up and down the court that it'd be scary. I'd fear myself every time I step, but I'd be feel like I'm going to be blown in Achilles or something. So I stick to golf in the summer, and then hockey when you're on the skates, kind of just gliding around out there. So
nice.
Those I stick with right now.
Cool. Well, again, thank you so much for being a part of this. And again, tell your whole family thank you. I'll probably see Dylan. I don't know when I'll see the rest of the family. It's summertime, and I don't get to see the kids very often because they're out doing their own thing. So, but yeah, it's definitely.
So what do you coach Dylan?
Yeah, I coach Dylan and Braden high school. I'm a assistant varsity baseball coach right now.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure because I know when you said your name and you coached Dylan, I wasn't sure. I was like, I know he played football, and I wasn't sure. So we didn't get. I saw like 2 innings this year of a game. Both our girls had practice on that same day, and it seemed like I was always trying to get to a game, and I saw like 2 innings. So I wasn't sure if you coach baseball or football. So
football is a little bit more time consuming. Baseball is kind of a come and go kind of thing.
Yep.
So. All right. Well, thanks again, buddy. It was nice talking to you. Go reminisce back to someone who was kind of my own age. So it was fun. Thanks again.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, that's number 20 in the books. Thanks again to Chris Crawford for joining me in the Baird Cave. Wow, some of the stories that he talked about, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, man, that's crazy. Just to live his life just for a day would have been great. It was awesome to have him be part of the show. Hey, Can you think of someone else that might be a good fit? Please let me know. Subscribe, follow, share, like, all those fun things. You can check out previous episodes too. You can find the Baird Necessities on iTunes, Spotify, and Podbean, and YouTube, of course. Please follow me on Twitter at the Baird NEC and send me some email. If there's something I'm missing, let me know. Drop me an email at thebairdnec@gmail.com. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell everybody. Join me next week. Same Baird time, same Baird channel. It's Coach Baird, and you've been listening to the Baird Necessities. Good night.